is demoralizing and destroying the black man or woman?
Lord have mercy. And not only are you 100% correct, social media put the degeneracy of black media on steroids. Okay. We already had Ebony, Essence, and Jet, 𝚂𝚬𝙺𝚵, and Source, who did nothing but parade the lightest skinned Africans they could find. Right? Now, light skin's still African. They should be there. But there's also other shades too. Why are they not as represented? So the light skin supremacy issue was pushed through black media. Also because black media cares more about advertising dollars, they often imitated white media. So what you often see, whatever USA Today talking about, the black newspaper talking about. Whatever New York Times is talking about, black newspaper talking about. And I think the black media spends too much time on sensationalism, celebrity stalking, petty crimes in the black community, and not enough on the real issues that we have. It's okay to report who got shot at the gas station last night, but let's talk about how the black community is becoming a hospital desert, where black people have to travel further and further to get emergency medical care. Let's talk about the gentrification and how these white people are preying on elderly blacks who own property that's been in their families for generations, and they cherry picking them through their through the tax bill that they owe, and they go into these black elders forcing them to sell their property because they say you're never going to pay this off. Talk about problems that matter. What about the miseducation? What about the mass incarceration? What about all these black people going to jail for 5 and 10 years for stealing $100 worth of merchandise? You got white people taking black people's life, don't get a day. They going to jail for 10 years for stealing $100 worth of product in Walmart? We are overlooking the judicial racism in this country. We focus too much on the elected officials. We focus too much on congressional officials. In the White House, executive and legislative, what about the judicial? Do y'all realize these courts are lynching black people every day? And we don't know about it because there's no camera in those rooms, courtrooms, when they're giving out these longer than necessary sentences. The judicial branch of the US government is stealing black people's lives. They're not killing you with a gun or a knife, but they're killing you by giving you excessive amount of times behind bars for crimes that white folks don't even get probation for.
How do you feel about BET?
BET, which is now owned by Tyler Perry. First of all, I'm proud of Tyler to come from rags to riches. I'm proud of Tyler Perry, but I'm also cautious because now that you have BET, now that you have the largest independent black movie studio in American history, now that you own VH1, can we start getting some positive content now? Or are we going to keep on getting 2 Medeas a year? Because I'm sick of that. We don't need to see you in another dress with fake breasts again. We're done, right? So here's my thing though. I'm not going to be excessively critical of Tyler Perry, because if Negroes only want to watch Madea and these other self-hate movies he put out, I understand he got bills to pay. If you gotta stick with Madea, stick with Madea. But can we get a BET woke? Can we get a BET conscious? Can we get a BET culture where you're putting out some culturally affirming movies? We still haven't had a movie on the Haitian Revolution. We still haven't had a movie on Marcus Garvey. You understand me? Ida B. Wells still ain't get a movie yet. Think about all the Black Wall Street hasn't had a movie yet. Folks are there. So my thing to Tyler Perry, you can hire writers to put movies together for these different epic periods in our history. I'm not asking him to abandon the garbage, because unfortunately black people are addicted to it. But give those of us who woke a woke alternative. So that's my thing to Tyler Perry. If he does that, if Tyler Perry can give me some consistent conscious content over the next 10 years, I'll put him on my very short list of greatest blacks of the 21st century. The only person who's on that list right now is Brian Stevenson, who is head of the Innocence Project, who goes around the country getting all those innocent black people off death row who never should have been convicted in the first place. Right now, he's the only person on my list. And I pray for my sister, Queen Mother Oprah, because with the money she got, being the richest woman in the history of North America, not just black, period, if she goes to her ancestors and I hope she don't go anytime soon, but if Oprah Winfrey goes to her ancestors with that kind of money, having no biological offspring, you see that? Having not done nothing for Black America, I'm sure the ancestors want to give her a behind looking when she gets to heaven. I mean, I don't think there's no greater embarrassment than for a multi-millionaire, billionaire Black person to die having done nothing with your race. Look at Tupac, and he didn't get a chance to do anything. Tupac's money is controlled by an estate that his family has nothing to do with. Look at Kobe Bryant. He married Vanessa, a Latino. Vanessa inherited almost $1 billion fortune. Not an African identifying Latino either, you understand? She ain't using none of that money to help Black folks. As soon as Kobe died, the first thing Vanessa did was change the name on his sports academy from Mamba to something else. Nobody told you to do that. You see what I'm saying? So my thing is, BET can be something progressive under Tyler Perry if he wants it to be, but I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't have a lot of confidence because most of our multi-millionaires had to come and sit at that table controlled by those people. And I'm almost certain Tyler Perry probably had to have a sit down with those people. And once you sit down with those people, you have no independence of action anymore. If you notice, the only thing Black millionaires and billionaires can do with their wealth is buy stuff and have fun. If you notice, they are not allowed to weaponize or politicize their money at all. That's why they got 20 cars, 20 homes, 1,000 pair of sneakers, because the white man says you cannot use any of this for the benefit of Black people without taking a smackdown. But here's my thing, take the damn smackdown. I'd rather live on my feet or die on my feet than live on my knees. And that is a problem we as Black people have. I think a lot of us are comfortable being on the bottom as long as we can have the conveniences of European civilization. We comfortable as long as I got my Mercedes, my cell phone, my white girlfriend, you understand, my Twitter, my Facebook. A lot of us are okay having no power as long as we can have these conveniences. Good question. Who's my number 4? Right here.
It's not the degree I expected, but okay, to the point. I study numerology, astrology, all the arts, all our divinatory arts. One thing that I could do, that I've been doing for these Neanderthals for too long, that I want to do for our people is, I study their charts and I write down every aspect of it, with every star, every planet, everything broken down. And I want to do that for all of our men, because a lot of us don't know who we are. And we are the source to every sense of structure that we need in our communities. We need that. It begins with us. So I'm going to target all of us, because it's like, I target women and they're easily susceptible to it, but it's like, they just kind of got their minds worked up in the system, because it's just, they don't have structure. They don't have anyone to look up to. And it's us men that they rely on us to do that. So I want, to the point, is there anyone you know that can help me build a website, because I don't trust these fools, I don't trust these Neanderthal sellouts, to help stabilize something that's for us and safe for us. Because I know you could tell me your birthday, you could tell me your wife's birthday, and I could figure out okay, whether it's a good match or not. Just off of that, not even reading your charts, and I study more deep down into it all the time. And I keep doing it every day, but it's I want to bring it out. And I want to help others out, because we need it. We need some kind of structure. And you want to build all these communities and everything. I'm the head of the community is I know the difference between a romantic community, no, a romantic, what's the word? Two people getting together romantically, and two people getting together for structure, for something to work together. I recognize that difference. The Octorians left the clue.
You gotta come to that question though, my brother.
Yeah.
It's okay, I'm with you.
To the point, do you have anyone that you can recommend me that
Yes, I do.
Build me a website?
I don't know if he can build the website. I know people who can build the website too. There you go right there, my brother in the Phillies over there. Okay. But if you're also looking for, and I know you're in astrology as you mentioned, but if you're looking for another master astrologer, I have an astrologer here in Miami who lives here, Brother 𝚂𝚸𝙺𝚀. 𝙻𝙸𝙺𝚂𝙸𝙱𝚂. Him and his wife are master astrologers. So if you want to connect with him, just text me and I'll send him your information and ask him to give you a call. To your point, I do believe we as African people have to go back to harmonizing our intentions with the agenda of the universe. I think one of the big mistakes that we make in this day and time is we never look to spiritually sync our work with the appropriate time designated for such through the stars. With that being said, I think that every system has something to offer us in that regard. So for me personally, in what I do, I use my astrological chart. I use my divination systems through 𝚂𝚗, right? I'll also use some of the neurologists' work. I'll even go to some of the Christians who I know who do divinations using the Bible, the Hebrew, because I believe every system has a piece, no one has it all. And so I look at all of the different ones, and that's how what they have to say about a given issue, and that's how I make my decisions. So in addition to the astrological and the numerological, we still have to get that divination as well to find out what the spiritual oracle has to say about what we're working on. Whether that's 𝚂𝚗, whether that's Dogon, whether that's the Kemetic system, or the Latino African brothers and sisters who might use the Palo, the 𝚂𝚗𝙱𝚂𝚗. Absolutely. We don't want to leave that out either. Look at it all and then synthesize. But we have to get back to that. And if you're interested, consider sending us a resume for FDMG because we will be teaching astrology class at the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy. So if that's something you're interested in teaching, let us know.
Yes, sir.
Good question. Who's my number 5?
Thank you, today.
Yes, sir.
Nice meeting you, brother.
Likewise.
So I run a nonprofit teaching young black boys technology. I'm a tech exec from Amazon. One of the things that I'm struggling with, and I would like your advice, is if I was to call up 20 people and tell them I was going to fight at my house, I'll get 50 people.
Yes, sir. Tonight.
When I do my back to school drive next week, I may get 80. You know, how do you deal with the mental exhaustion of going hard for your people when they don't show up for you?
Number 1, you can't get exhausted. Or when you get exhausted, you have to renew yourself. The Honorable Marcus Garvey said black leadership means pain, blood, and death. You see, so when you feel yourself getting exhausted, you got to take a break, self-care, get yourself back together, and get back out there. Because when you look at the Ida B. Wells, and you look at the Bishop Turners, and you look at the Kings and the Malcolms and the Medgars, they didn't have no break. Don't get me wrong. Not self-caring cost some of them their life. I don't think it's a coincidence that Marcus Garvey died in his 50s. Booker T. Washington died in his 50s. Khalid Abdul Muhammad died in his 50s. I think Amos Wilson might have died in his 50s. There was not enough self-care. You feel me? So we have to engage in self-care. We can't work till we kill ourselves. But if we're not going to take care of ourselves as we work, it still needs to be in the struggle because you becoming a casualty or a martyr is not what we need. We don't need our brothers dying for the people. We need our brothers living for the people. So that's number 1. Number 2, we have to make sure we're doing a good job marketing the program because a lot of times our people simply don't know. And I think one of the things we have to create, which could start here tonight, because most of you registered through Eventbrite, is we need to have an information tree where when something critical needs to be gotten through the community, we can get it through email, text message. Maybe you're responsible for her knowing, and she's responsible for him knowing, and he's responsible for her knowing. But we need a way to get critical information to each other. Because guess what? If you live in Fort Lauderdale, Miami could be catching hell, and you don't even know if CNN don't tell you. So one of our greatest disadvantages is we are dependent on white people to keep us informed about black people. We don't know if something's going on in Jamaica right now unless the white media tells us. So I think we have to do better with advertising. And it's something I recommend y'all do in Miami. I actually recommend it for every community. They do it in St. Louis, Kansas City, Missouri. You know what they have? They have a community calendar. Every black organization in Kansas City agreed to do this one thing. There's a community calendar. Whenever you plan an event, you have to go and write it on the community calendar. There's one place in the city everybody can come to find out what's going on that's conscious and grassroots. And guess what? If a brother in Miami wants to do a barbecue for black boys on August the 10th. But he comes and looks at the community calendar and see there's a sister already doing something for the elders. He cannot compete with any event that's already scheduled. Do y'all see that? Yeah. And so, and it's the only city I've seen do this. In Kansas City, there's no conflict amongst the organizations because they all agree to do them two things. Put it on the community calendar and don't compete with no one else. And this way, everybody in the community can go one place, and find out what's conscious going on. Y'all need to do that in Miami. Good question. Number 6. Oh, my bad. Okay.
My question for you, Mr. Umar, is about this. Can you define organized power, and how do we reach such organized power to affect major change?
I would define organized power as the organized ability to implement the agenda that you have determined to be in the best interest of future generations of African people. And it is also the ability to resist the schemes and scams of your enemy designed to sabotage your work. You have to be able to build, and you have to be able to resist sabotage and destruction from reactionary Negroes in the white power structure. To that point, I would say this. Black people have to start having meetings where we discuss nothing but how do we concentrate power in Miami in the hands of black people. Seriously. This meeting is about how can we take power over the food? How can we take power over the social events? How can we take power over education? Because that's what Jews do. That's what Mexicans do. That's what Arabs do. They come as a community and say, how do we take over every corner store in Little Haiti? Do y'all see that? They want to dominate everything you got. We don't come together with the same mindset because we have been manipulated into believing that wanting power is evil. No, it's not. Evil comes from not having no power, because that's when you got to steal, kill, and rob in order to feed your family. Power is divine. God is power. And the only way you're going to be able to exercise your God-given potential is to have power yourself. One thing we got to start doing in the black community that we gave up our study groups when YouTube hit. YouTube destroyed the black study group movement. If you go back 20 years ago, every one of you probably remember a study group in your neighborhood. Different organizations had black conscious study groups. When you come, you watch a film, you talk about it. Book clubs, you read a chapter, you talk about it. As soon as YouTube took off, guess what happened to all the political study groups? They died. We have to go back to the study group. You know why? Every revolution in world history began with a study group. Because before I can fight with you, I have to share a common psychology with you. How do I know who you are if I don't study with you? See, when we study, you hear people's opinions, you hear people's mindset, you learn about their background, you get little snippets of information about them you otherwise would not have known. A brother who you thought could have been a frontline soldier might turn out to be a coon. A sister you thought was a coon might be the best person in the whole group. You gotta have the study group because that's how you recruit your soldiers and that's how you forge collective consciousness. We gotta go back to the study groups. And I'm gonna tell you something else we gotta go back to. We ain't done this since the Harlem Renaissance. Tyler Perry did it, but not for the right reasons. And that is the black community drama clubs. Research the history of drama in the black community. Do you know we resisted Willie Lynch with drama? We resisted the psychological programming of the public schools with drama. We would have a play on Harriet Tubman, a play on the Haitian Revolution, a play on Booker T. Washington, a play on the black soldiers of the Civil War, a play on the Maroons of Jamaica and the Maroons of Haiti. Why can't we put together plays? Because we can't compete with major network TV. But imagine if you had 100 children in here watching a play on Harriet Tubman, watching a play on Ida B. Wells. We say we don't want them to be Nicki Minaj, we don't want them to be Cardi B. Show them what they should be. What about a play on Anna Julia Cooper, one of the first black women to get a PhD, who graduated from the Sorbonne in Paris and was one of the first Pan-Africanists in history? Let's dramatize the consciousness we want our children to have. What about a play that shows a black girl go from weave to natural hair? We need drama clubs. Drama is how we can recapture the minds of our children. Let's get back to the study groups for the adults, and let's get back to the drama clubs for our children. Number 7, Queen. Microphone.
Thank you. This is related more to like social media, like the New Red Pill podcast. I do want to know what.
Before you go further, what is the red pill, blue pill? What is that?
Okay, so Red Pill podcast, they call them just podcasts that more talk about, say, women's issues.
Red is women and blue is men.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And I'm more of a millennial. I'm an influencer as well. I'm mainly on social media.
Okay.
So I do want to hear from that perspective because I do understand the negative parts, but there is a lot of positive on social media as well.
Okay.
So
Okay.
when it comes to this, how can we, as black women, get our black men to understand the things that our oppressions and the things that we face in order to work with us? For instance, I wear a wig, but I have locks. So when men meet me, they think that I don't love myself instead of just understanding things. So how could we get men to understand us in a way and the things that we go through as oppressions? And even when they say go to, like say going to college and trying to get out the hood, and we're supposed to do those things to make a better living for ourselves. So it's a whole, it's a comparison in our community. And it not only affects relationships, but it affects things like you being an aunt to your nephew, you being a mother to your son, you being just any kind of relationship. It's not just loving relationships. So how can men and women, because even some women need to see each other's value. So how can we do that?
You just gave me an idea, and I'm gonna give it back to you in case you want to work with me on it.
Okay.
You just gave me an idea that we need to have a serious political conference with the major social media influencers. Are y'all following me? Bring them, whether they coon or conscious. Bring them. Are y'all following me? Maybe the top 100 social media influencers, coon or conscious, just get them in the room and say, listen, you 100 or you 50, and you can split it, 50 men, 50 women. You represent the biggest voices and the most influential black folks, Africans, on social media. How can we work together and put together a system to reprogram our people to their own benefit? How can we work together and make this happen? What do you think about that? I think that would be powerful. And they would come. And they would come. So it's time to organize the social media influencers. Let's work on that. Perfect. Perfect. My brother, you were going to add something before we go to number 8, because I think Queen was 7. You was going to add clarity on the red pill, blue pill. Go ahead.
Red pill is a reference to the movie The Matrix.
Correct.
In which people took the red pill to come out of the Matrix. So the red pill community, or the self-professed red pill community, are those who say that their
woke.
Their social cultural narrative is so-called their awakening out of the false narrative that's modernism.
They're waking up out of the deep state.
Right.
So they are on the path to consciousness.
That is the idea behind it. However, I think a lot of times people call themselves.
But some of the red pill people are some of the biggest coons though.
That's what he's trying to explain.
That's the ethos behind their names.
Okay.
However, a lot of them, this is my personal opinion, a lot of their social political messaging is very problematic, and usually red pill people are part of the manosphere, people who.
Yeah, that's not progressive.
Exactly. And
so what is blue? Tell me about blue.
Blue pill is the name that red pillars give to people who they still see as asleep within the
but they sleep too.
Exactly. As millennials, not to label it anything, but as millennials, we have a lot of influence as far as people, they are, you know they're taking our culture, but no, they're marketing to us to spend our dollars, but disrespecting us in our face. I'm an influencer, I'm like, you know, I just post content to make money. I don't regurgitate social media, and I try to tell people to let their kids do that, but see, when you do certain things on social media, they judge your image. Instead of looking at you and saying, well, wow, if you do this, and you're telling me not to regurgitate this, maybe let me listen to you. So that is the narrative. It's a smoke in a mirror, because these men are saying they're woke, but they're woke on being more disrespectful, misusing and misabusing the black woman.
So in other words, you can't use the red bill, blue bill to really know where somebody is consciously.
Yes.
Okay.
It's the mirage. So that's why I feel like even with influencers, I want to say I applaud you with your thing with 𝚂𝚄𝙱𝚂𝙺𝚵, but a little bit about her. Suki has a lot of knowledge, but I hate to say it as women, it's like a Trojan horse. In this society, if you want to work with them,
I'm trying to get her out of that.
if you want to work with them, you don't have control of your image, and you go deeper into a rut. But then when you want to have these things that you do on your own and you get judged, at least you keep the money yourself to where it's no right way to be in a system that it's not allowing you to do nothing. Suki will with another woman on, you know what I'm trying to say, on state welfare. So it's like, but because you find these avenues that you can make your money, it's not who you are, it's what you do. And I feel like people are not letting their kids know that. Men are not realizing that about their women, their sisters, or their whoever.
But I also think we got to be careful, because as Africans, we are a principled people. So although I can honor the fact that what I do is not who I am, I also have to take accountability for the fact that what I do is influencing people to become that. And so I think that we have to make sure we remain principled, because we can influence a lot of people to go down the wrong road who may never recover. See, you can recover, but that young sister you influence, she may take you on face value. It's just like with the hip hop culture. A lot of them never did that. A lot of them never sold dope, never killed nobody, never went to jail. But guess what? That 12-year-old boy in Miami listening to Rick Ross, he may actually take it on face value, and it may put him in jail for the rest of his life. And not to divulge, because I want to go to the next person, but one of the things I'm having an issue with right now is how we celebrate 50 years of hip hop, and nobody's having a serious conversation about the negative hip hop has done to the black community. Or are we just going to sit here and act like hip hop has only been good? You know how many people in prison because they got influenced by that music? You understand what I'm saying? Hip hop didn't create the gangs. Hip hop didn't create violence, but it did glamorize it. It did popularize it. And that makes them accountable for what hip hop has become. And I think because of the money these artists have, they're able to control the reaction from the black community, because people want to quote unquote get put on. So I'm not going to openly criticize gangster rap, because those men are worth millions, and there's a chance I might can get something from it. So we are being controlled by the money of these gangster rappers, and we need to cut it out, because as African people, we have never been controlled by money. That's not who we are. We are about life. We are not about money, and we got to get back to being who we're supposed to be. 8. Go ahead, my brother.
I want to thank you for what you're doing. Social media, your voice is social media is a voice multiplier.
Yes.
Your message is getting out there, because subconsciously we are kings, queens. I mean,
Is that Rob?
Yes. What's up?
From Scotland?
Yes. We went to high school. We went to college in London.
We went to high school together. You and mother all the way up in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania.
Let me say something. Genetically, we are kings. I'm doing my family tree. We are kings and queens. We come from that motherland.
That's right.
And it's what he's doing is his message is getting out there, and subconsciously we are so slaves to name brands. The black dollar is black power. That's right. We come together, and what he's doing is waking us up. And honestly, I was in the military for 24 years of my life. And if you pay attention to what's going on, there's a war against African Americans. And in every state, the governor is saying slavery is good for black people. I say let's put him in slavery and his wife do all of the atrocities they do to us.
That's right.
And see what benefits they get. And then number two was that I drove to, we were headed to Destin, Florida. We drove to Rosewood. I stopped. Rosewood was wiped off the map. And it's a small, you drive right by it, you don't know, it's a plaque up there. The descendants, I had Googled it, the descendants were, in like, I think Bush 1, who was governor, or Jeb Bush, they wanted money, and they ignored him. So the descendants from that Rosewood never got a dime. They're probably dead at this point. My point is that they're trying to erase our history, trying to erase the atrocities, and if we don't wake up and come together, and what Dr. Umar's message is wake us up, we have to come together. I've known him for a long time. He's coming, I have 0 right here.
We went to college together too, I forgot. Millersville University.
Anyway, long story short, I'm grateful for your message, just bringing us together. We are strong people. And honestly, if you look at the opposite race, I ain't gonna call them out. The further they went away from Africa, the more evil. If you look at the ones who've done the most crimes against humanity, have went further away from that continent right there. And it's not us. It's not who we are. We are strong people, and they're afraid of that. When we unite, there's nothing we can't do together. I'm telling you, what you're doing is waking us up. So keep doing the great work.
Thank you, brother. I want to ask you a question.
Yes, sir.
Because you did spend 24 years in the military.
And they're in there. Don't get it. You see those flags? They're not on our side. Some of them. I'm not gonna say all of them.
Right. Here's my question to you. With what your experience there and what you see now with the military, if a young person coming out of high school said they wanted to go straight into the military or they were thinking about it, would you say yes? Would you say no? Would you say yes with some conditions? What would be your...
So I'll tell you this much. Like all these institutions, you get what you... After 24 years, I don't get a blessing. However, there's systematic racism in the military, but get the benefits out of it. Right now, they pay for my master's. I'm in school for MBA. I got a separate doctorate. Take Uncle Sam took a lot from us, get every dollar out from them. So take advantage of the benefits, but try to make change. I had so much racism. I don't have time to tell you the stories of racism that happened to me. And what you do, and I just honestly was discussing this, it took the Air Force to George Floyd to get murdered, for them to send out a letter. I was in reserve. They sent a letter that said, we acknowledge we held African Americans back. It shouldn't have took that murder to see that. And we've been complaining about all the issues. They literally sent a letter out to all service members. The bottom line is, I would tell them still join, but be again, a voice multiplier for our cause. Because here's one disgusting thing about the military. The Civil War, Joint Base Andrews, Fort Lee, they're named after Confederate soldiers. So you got African American fighting or living on bases, named after people who tried to kill us and hang our ancestors. We need to change those base states should be named after Martin Luther King or Marcus Garvey, basically, or some other heroes of our culture. Literally, Google how many names are named after Confederate soldiers who lived and died trying to keep us oppressed. It's fascinating. But the bottom line is that I would tell them to join and get the most, but again, be effective for change when you're in, of course, in this country.
Good looking, man. My brother Rob right there, yes. Hold that tight. Hold on, please. Let Brother Will say a word on that.
Right quickly, just to piggyback on what he said, I was in the military as well. I didn't do 24 years. I did some years. I was in Iraq. I did some things. I was in the Army, used in the Air Force. The Army, the military is going woke, and I don't mean woke in the good way. That's been stolen by the alphabet people. Our conscience has been stolen. But it would be good for young black men to at least do, I said, 3-4 years in whatever branch of service that they want to go in for one reason. Their skills, black men have to protect the community. And there's skills that only the military can teach you. Nobody does it better to teach you how to kill and protect and defend. And the KKK used to recruit. Their prime people that they wanted to recruit was ex-special forces, because they are what they call force multipliers. One special force person has the training and the capability of like 100 regular soldiers. Wow. So if, you know, eventually black people are gonna need those skills to protect the community and protect their women. So yes, they should go in and get some of that training. They don't have to stay in and do 24 years, but they do 4 years. They'll have the training that will last them for life, that can be utilized for the advantages of black culture in our community. Like Dr. Umar said, he wants to teach martial arts at school and gun and training, etc. And nobody will let the military get in, get out.
We up to 9, right? Who's my 9? I see 3 hands for 9. See, this is what black people do everywhere. Listen, can I tell y'all a true story? I gotta say this. I've done Q&A all over the world. Nigeria, South Africa, Jamaica, Bahamas, London, Paris. Negroes always forget their number. What is it with black folks? We cannot remember the numbers. Oh, turned it off. So who's the real 9? Oh, we didn't get the 9? I got to 10. Okay, did you go yet, King? Go ahead. I'm gonna do new numbers after you since we forgot.
So, Dr. Umar, thank you for everything that you do. I was hoping to call upon your expertise as a renowned Pan-Africanist and also as an educator. I recently got hired in the postal system as an art teacher for elementary school. And I wanted to know, because the school I teach at is majority Asian students and majority African American students and Latino. And I wanted to know what would you say are some perhaps generalized tips that I could use to make sure that I'm doing the most that I can to edify my students as black students, as African students, in my role as an art teacher. Because I really only see each cohort for about an hour a week, but I want to make sure that I'm giving them something that's more than just, drawing their favorite cartoon characters and whatnot, and actually edifying them as students. I hope you can indulge me in the second question as well after that.
What grades you have?
2 through 5.
You got the babies. Okay, I'm gonna go 3 ways. Number 1, art is therapy, right? So as a healing modality, I want you to have them do projects and activities that involve them painting or drawing how they feel, how your parents get along, how you feel about your future. If you had already graduated from high school, what would you be doing right now? Use therapy to heal. Draw the person you would like to be. And after they draw it, do you feel like this person now? Why or why not? Art is very therapeutic. But in the beginning, I want freehand art, because freehand art is going to let me know what they're thinking. You follow me? Yes. Art is very therapeutic. Make sure you use it, right? So that's number 1. Number 2, have them do projects where they have to draw ancestors, great ones, and or epic moments from our history as African people. Make them put that in drawing. Put it in small groups. Y'all gonna do 10 scenes from the Haitian Revolution. Y'all gonna do 10 scenes from the Civil War. You understand? Y'all gonna do 10 scenes from the African Independence Revolution. Have them do the art that way. And your biggest thing with art is helping them tap into the self-hate for African skin color. You follow me? Yes. Have them draw a beautiful woman. Draw a handsome man. Draw the person you wish you could look like. Why don't it look like you? Why did none of you draw a dark-skinned African? Not one of you. You understand? You can use that class to revolutionize and liberate their minds from the self-hate content that media has put in them. You're in a very powerful position. Use it wisely, my brother.
And the second question, real quick. I once watched a Oxford Union address from, I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, a brother named Akala.
Yes, I met him.
Yes. So his Oxford Union address was extraordinarily informative for me with respect to continuing Oxford Union address on Black history.
Yes.
And one of the things that he said that, truth be told, it made me rather envious of his experience, is that he said that he had a Pan-African Saturday school growing up. So
I didn't know that.
While he was in public school in the UK, all of the whitewashed history, so to speak, never intimidated him because he had the backbone, the strength was Pan-African education to stand up to it, if you will. So for instance, he was never particularly intimidated as African by the imposition of Shakespeare as some sort of literary giant and sign and a signal of British superiority, because he knew of great African poets from the Saturday school. Nonetheless, my question is, what would you say is a good place or a good way to get started in learning some Pan-African education on my own this late in my college?
There's some great books on Pan-Africanism. One of my favorite that comes to mind immediately, it was edited by Marcus Garvey's widow, Queen Mother Amy Jakes Garvey, and Dr. John Henry Clark. And it's called Marcus Garvey and the Vision of Africa. Anyone who wants to begin their education and study in Pan-Africanism, please read Marcus Garvey and the Vision of Africa, edited by Amy Jakes Garvey, whose gravesite I finally visited for the first time in Jamaica a few weeks ago, and Dr. John Henry Clark. In addition to those, Race First by Tony Martin, the organizational and ideological struggle of Marcus Garvey in the UNIA. Third, Amos Wilson. Everything Amos Wilson, okay? Dr. John Henry Clark also has some books on Pan-Africanism as well. But Marcus Garvey in the Vision of Africa, I think is one of the greatest introductions to Pan-African. Good question.
What was the second book? I'm sorry.
Race First. It's an orange book with black letters by Tony Martin, Tonymartin. He was the official historian of the UNIA until he died a couple years ago. My first official public speaking event was with Tony Martin and Dr. Renoko Rashidi, who we lost 2 summers ago, I believe, in Kemet, leading a tour. So yeah, and any more titles, y'all can text me for them, but everything Amos Wilson. Watch every video of Amos Wilson on YouTube, read every book of Amos Wilson. He was a Pan-African clinical psychologist like me, and I believe he was the most relevant black scholar of the second half of the 20th century. And some people believe they killed him in a hospital in New York City. We're going to go fresh with the numbers. Do not forget your numbers. So we got, who the 10? 10? We got a 10. We got an authentic 10. We're going to make you 9 and he's going to be 10. Go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Umar, for all of what you do for our community. When I look around the room, I see people are genuinely concerned with the state of Black America and the state of Black people around the world.
Yes, sir.
So my question is, sir, how can we first self-heal in our community and also organize and unify with not just Black people in Florida, but Black people in America, in the Caribbean, in Africa, around the world, so we can reach true liberation, sir?
Great question. One of the first things we have to do is we have to find out who's serious and who's not. You know the quickest way to do that? Make people pay to attend the meeting. That money goes to the project we're going to, talk about building. Make sure every meeting has a clearly defined purpose so it doesn't get sidetracked into contests of ego and ideological debate, right? This is the purpose. We are here to talk about building an independent school in Miami. We are here to talk about creating a community patrol for our neighborhood from sundown to sunup to make sure our women are not being kidnapped and our girls are not being sexually trafficked. We are here to start an agricultural network where we're going to contact the Black farmers in Florida and see how we can set up some Black farmers markets so Black people can get some real food instead of that Bill Gates garbage that's being shipped out around the country, right? Purpose. And then you're going to have 2 sergeants of arms who are armed at every meeting. Because you're going to get somebody in that meeting who think they're better than everybody else and have a right to disrupt that meeting. So you got to have military brothers who throw their ass out as soon as they get off that. You got to do that. Make people pay, stick to the topic, throw people out who are not sticking to the topic or who want to violate the purpose for us being there. And you know what's going to happen? The meeting going to get smaller and smaller until you get your core group. Once you have your core group who you know you can trust, you don't need no more than 6 to 12. Now you can go out fishing for more real people. But before you can go out to the community, you got to make sure you got soldiers you can trust. Because a lot of us love to talk, but we don't like to work. And a lot of us, if we don't get what we want from an organization, we'll try to destroy the whole thing going out the door. So before you go to work, you got to make sure you can trust the people that you got. But the next step is to start having meetings. We got to meet. And I know Black people love to say things like, I'm tired of meetings. That's all we do is have meetings. We never do nothing. The Chinese don't get where they've gotten without meetings. The Jews don't get where they've gotten without meetings. The Arabs don't get where they've gotten. You have to meet because you organize in the meeting. If there's no meeting, there's no organization. The problem isn't that we have a bunch of meetings. The problem is the meetings are unorganized and undisciplined. The quickest way to lose black people is to invite them to waste their time at a meeting that is undisciplined and disorganized. We gotta improve the culture of black community meetings.
So we are already at an hour. However, we don't have the day of, this is our church, so, and I'm gonna leave it up to your discretion. Right, because
If Queen Mother's okay.
we're okay with giving another hour, because there's not many times that we get this opportunity. And as he said, these type of conversations are necessary, and so I would love for everyone to get their question in, so we can just be a little bit more mindful, because I know we want to die and get answers, and just to have this conversation, but we do have to think about time. So if you do have to go, you can leave, but if you just want to stay, you can definitely stay, because we're not rushing you out.
They get to the question and not the commentary.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Just keep the same topic we had when we started, where people put their hand up and take a question, so we can address everybody.
So you're saying no follow-up question?
Right.
No follow-up question?
Right. No lectures. No lectures.
No lectures. Okay, because I did leave it up to Dr. Umar's discretion. So I'm following the lead.
But I will say this. One of the reasons when we do Q&A, and I do it all over the world, and it's the same. People go over, but you gotta be patient with them, because we don't come together enough to talk about what's important to us as a people. 85% of our time is spent serving the white power structure and trying our best to take care of our family. There's very little time left to talk about progressive issues and items that need to be discussed. So I understand all of us have an abundance of energy and an abundance of ideas on our heart, and we gotta give each other time to get it out. So sometimes people might criticize and say, Dr. Umar, you let her talk too long. You gotta get it out. Because in therapy, if you don't let people get the energy out, it'll kill them. So I say, try to keep your question close, but let's be patient if they go over a little, because we've been through a lot. And being able to speak your mind is very therapeutic, you understand? People have been holding stuff in for years. Sometimes we gotta be patient enough to let them get it out. Number 10, and then we'll start with new numbers.
This is close to what he was saying. As a black principal at an all-white Montessori middle school, I face a student body of 8% black, and I'm the only black administrator and the only male administrator there. Now I've been working in black schools for the past 10 years, but I run against issues with like lack of pay, lack of resources. Every year I feel guilty for not being a part of the black education. My wife and I, we own and live in a house in a black neighborhood in Fort Lauderdale. After watching the first Breakfast Club interview, I decided to date and marry my culture. My wife and I purposely support African American financially, from groceries to individuals who fix and work on our cars and our house. I find it easy to be pro-black in relationships and how I spend my money. But work for black and African Americans is not easy. What more can I do? Long term, I would like to work in an all-black school, but in the meantime, how can I make an impact for African Americans where I'm at? And this is a side note. As being a principal, this whole summer, the history teacher has been sending emails to incorporate black history, real black history, such as civil rights, Jim Crow, redlining, etc. But his concern is that the parents might not have a liking to it or accept it.
Speaking as a former principal and former assistant principal myself, you can't worry about the money when you're trying to save our kids. If you gotta start a side business, start a side business. But the education of our kids is too important. The money piece, you have to sacrifice some of that if you want to reach us. That's number one. Number two, I don't care if the parents want it or not. If your child go to the school, they're going to get that knowledge yourself. Number 3, that principal has to recognize that his number 1 job is to protect them black kids who are there. I remember when I was assistant principal before I became principal, and I felt so guilty because I quit the school because they wasn't allowing me to make decisions. And the day after I quit, them white teachers suspended like 20 black boys and expelled like 5. They couldn't wait because I was the one protecting them boys. So we need them there to protect them. It's easy to walk away. It's not easy to stay and fight. So we need them to stay and fight. And for those of you who are public school teachers, I know you tired of the hell. I know you underpaid. I know you're often overlooked for promotions. But if you gotta leave, start your own homeschool. Start your own after-school program. But do something so those children can still benefit from your nurture and your energy. Don't walk out on them because you are all that they have. If every black teacher leaves the school, those white people would tear our kids to pieces. We have to stay in there until we give them a bridge to another educational institution. Great point. Here's what I want to do with the next questions. We had mostly men. I want to give sisters an opportunity. Yes. Number 1 right here. Yes. Number 2, number 3, number 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Those are going to be the 9 in the green in the back.
I missed that part.
Number 1 is right here. You're up next.
Okay, thank you, Tamai. I appreciate it. Okay, so I've been talking about love and relationship for years. I did a podcast and show. We're not marrying each other. We're struggling women are even struggling to get married when you talk about queens. So what do you think is going on and how do we fix it?
Great question. Number 1, I think black women need to exercise the same option as black men as it relates to finding an African mate on another landmass. You got brothers in the Caribbean, you got brothers in Africa, you got brothers in Canada, you got brothers in the UK, you got brothers in South America, you got brothers in Australia. Why not look for your mate outside of the continental US? It means you might have to travel a little more. You might have to spend some more time outside of America, but why not? There's not a shortage of black men in the world. There's a shortage of viable black men in America. So I think sisters need to exercise that option. The other thing I think needs to happen, and I know this is going to sound controversial to some extent, and I feel you ladies, but I think black women by themselves, with no men around, need to have a conversation on plural marriage. And let me tell you why. Many of you are sharing anyway. No, let's be honest now. Can we be honest? Are we going to be honest or are we going to act like we don't know? Many women are sharing, not because men are dogs, but because there's not enough of the good ones to go around. And because of that, women are sharing other women's men, and they're well aware of it. And we have to deal with the obvious contradiction of some sisters who say, I'm not sharing my man, but there's a lot of women who have voluntarily slept with married men. So help me understand how you're dating a married man, but you won't share your man. That's hypocrisy. I'm not saying we gotta practice polygyny forever. I'm not saying every man is able to be polygynous. I'm not saying every sister has to be in a polygynous situation. But here's what I do know. There's a lot of single black mothers who are struggling in poverty, who don't have a man to help them with their children, who are less than desirable to many of these men on social media who want a perfect black Barbie doll, who would love the opportunity to be a co-wife with a good man involved. And I'm simply saying that the conversation needs to be had, not with men. It ain't got nothing to do with us. And the reason why it ain't got nothing to do with us, brothers, polygyny does not work if the women ain't interested in working together. So it ain't got nothing to do with us. We could go out and choose all the women we want, but if we want that to be a healthy system, the women have to want cooperation with each other. So black women need to have a conversation on plural marriage, and y'all need to put some rules to this, because until black women acknowledge that most alpha males will never be with one woman, and put some rules so he's accountable to all queens involved, you will continue to be taken advantage of and exploited. Black women are exploited by black men because you are in denial about the fact you are sharing. Please, slaves, y'all need a meeting on it. Whether you for it or against it, please put some rules to it. Because I work in schools, and there's nothing more disheartening than to go into a school and you got a brother and a brother who got a different mother, same age, father impregnated both queens. They knew he was dating both, but guess what? The children are forbidden to acknowledge their sibling as family. They're not allowed to speak with them. They're not allowed to play with them because the mother is angry that the other woman had a child by the same man. We are destroying siblings' relationships with each other over this petty nonsense. And to black men, I gotta say this to my brothers. Stop lying to our women. Telling them they the only one in your life when they are not. Be honest and allow her the chance to make a decision. I'm gonna have 2 queens. That's just the way it's gonna be. I'm not lying to no woman. I'm telling them up front. And if I get a sister who says, I think I can change your mind. No, do not. Brothers, be honest with these women because y'all lying to them, telling them, baby, you all I want, you all I need, and you got 2 queens on the other side of Miami. Cut it out. Be honest. Part of being a man is being honest with women about your true intentions. And brothers, we are not always as honest as we should be. And we have traumatized a lot of sisters in this process. And these sisters are taking the trauma you caused into the next relationship so the good man don't even get a chance to experience the best of that woman because she was traumatized by your irresponsible ass. Forgive the language, Queen Mother. So let's start being more responsible as black men, please. Great question. Who's the second sister?
Thank you for coming to Miami. And I have a question on the line of school. So my son, he goes to school in Miami-Dade County. This past year, the school by the Paradise, he went to a predominantly Hispanic school. And so they violated our rights. They also
I don't like the black children in the Hispanic school. Sometimes they get more racism from the Hispanics than the whites.
Yes. So I also didn't say that they discriminated against us. I did everything that I was supposed to do with compare my education and my power structure.
Did you ever file a complaint of racial discrimination with the United States Department of Education Office of Civil Rights? There's an Office of Civil Rights in the USDOE in DC whose sole job is to investigate civil rights complaints in public and charter school. Did you ever hit them?
I did.
Okay.
I did, and it's ongoing. And so my question is, so this all happened the last school year. So over the summer, the Miami-Dade County Public School System, their Office of Attorney,
Okay.
School Board Office of Attorney, pretty much what they did is they posted online and they suited themselves up in preparation for a lawsuit. And so my question is going forward, like how do I prepare myself to go with a power structure that has, they have power and they're going to set themselves up to pretty much beat down whatever I do. They already put policies in place to fight what it is that I have coming for them. So my question is like, how do I stand up to such a big power structure, and then also how do I protect myself, because I'm just one person. I feel like they can always come after me like they have done with a lot of our leaders and people who try to fight me.
2 things. Number 1, first of all, I want to commend you for fighting because too many black parents are too quick to lay down. So give that sister a hand. Number 2, the reason your job is so hard fighting against them because they're so used to making black parents quit when they fight.
Absolutely.
So you are not just fighting for yourself.
Yes.
You're fighting the resistance of the 100 black parents who experienced the same thing before you and did nothing. So you cannot quit. That's number 2. Because working in the school, I can tell you, I've seen it from every angle. They depend on your mothers, especially the single ones, to grow tired of the fight. They depend on y'all to quit. They drag you out. They cancel the meeting. They put the meeting at 7 in the morning when they know you can't be there. You understand? They get disrespectful with you. They treat you like a child. Stay with it. Number 1, don't go to no meeting by yourself. Take somebody with you. Number two, what we have to do in Miami, and I just mentioned this to Queen Mother Etta earlier. When I walked in here, what did I say, Queen Mother? I said, you have enough space for me to come back and do my Black Parent Boot Camp. So, let me say this. If you don't already have my cell number, let me take that back. If you haven't already texted me with your name and city, Mike, Miami, Jennifer, Fort Lauderdale, Rob, Hollywood, make sure you text Dr. Umar with your name and city so I can lock you in my contacts. So when me and the Queen Mother choose a date for my return to do the boot camp in this room, you automatically get the flyer from me by text. Whenever I go to a city, I send a flyer to every one of my contacts who lives in that city. So make sure you text me, because we're going to do the boot camp, and we're probably going to do it soon because school is starting up. The boot camp is from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. It is 12 hours. I'm going to teach you everything you need to know, from special ed to 504 to the civil rights amendments, to the IEP, to the psyche valve, to the behavior plan, to the manifestation determination. You will know it all. You're going to get a packet of information from me that's this thick, that's your information. You will keep it forever. And I'm going to make sure you know how to be advocates. But here's the bigger issue. After you get my training, we now have to turn this into a chapter of the National Independent Black Parent Association. That's an organization that I have where we organize Black parents to come together and fight to protect our kids in school. 7 committees in every chapter. A special ed committee to investigate special ed fraud. Discipline committee to investigate unfair discipline practice. Policy committee to investigate the policies that are racist and that discriminate against our children, such as your Black child is at a Latino school and the teachers are instructing the children in Spanish. That Black child don't speak no damn Spanish. How are you going to be teaching the course in Spanish? That is racial segregation, discrimination. And it is illegal in publicly funded school programs. So there's a lot we can do to fight the racist Latinos and the racist Caucasians. I'll give you another. For those of you who are Haitian immigrants, first and second generation African immigrants, the schools in Miami are notorious for putting African immigrant and Haitian immigrant children in special ed simply because they don't speak English. Not speaking English is not a disability. If you don't speak English, you're supposed to get ESOL training. But guess what? That Haitian parent don't know American law. That's right. That parent from Guadeloupe speaking French, they don't know American law. I'm gonna stick them in special ed and get that special ed money from Ron DeSantis, and his mom and dad gonna never know he should have been in the ESOL program. Yeah. The point that I'm making is y'all gotta get organized. We also have a finance committee to invest how they're spending the money. When the last time a Black person in Miami had a contract to clean the bathrooms? When the last time a Black person in Miami had a contract for the after-school reading program? When the last time a Black person in Miami had a contract to take the trash out, drive the school buses? Everything in the school district is done on a contract. It is hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars that are given out at these school board meetings that y'all do not go to. You have to go to the school board meetings. Every school board meeting should have a sizable amount of Black parents there, because that's where they give out the contracts and that's where they set the racist policies. Remember, law comes from the state capitol. That's right. Policy is set by the school board. If the school board sets a racist policy, we can invalidate that by showing it's not consistent with the state law. They only going to change it if you let them know that you know this is racist and you cannot do this. We have to organize and we have to fight. There's also a parent advocate committee. Let's say the sister wants to be a parent advocate. She got a meeting with her son about ADHD. She going with him. Brother want to be an advocate. That brother got an issue. They want to evaluate his son and call him intellectually disabled. He going to go with him as the advocate. We got to have parents on call so these Black mothers are not walking to these schools by themselves. Brothers, this is on us. Every sister should have a Black man with her when she walks into the school so she don't get bullied. We have to be with our sisters. And Black women, if you can't find a man to go with you, take 2 or 3 Black women with you.